Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name is Evan McCauley, president of the club, and we are thrilled to have you joining us today. This meeting broadcast is available on HCTV as well as our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel. Our club meets weekly at Laurel Lake for breakfast on Wednesday mornings from 7:15 to 8:30 a.m. Come out and join us for a meeting. We'd love to have you as a guest. To learn more about Rotary, our club, and the impact that we are having on the local community and world, please visit rotaryhudson.org. Enjoy the meeting today and be the inspiration.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. I'm Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Phil Tobin.
Morning, everybody. Beautiful morning out there. This is going to be a real challenge because I wrote this down on the only piece of paper I had at the time last night. Heavenly Father, thanks for the gifts you've given us. Help us to share. Thank you for giving us our liberty. Help us to honor those in our military who protect us. Thank you for our family and friends. Help us to appreciate the love and affection they bring to us. Help us to return that to them in many ways. Thank you for our association with our good friends here in Rotary. Help us to practice the principles of the four-way test in all we do and everything we say. Thank you for the food that we have here and the people who have prepared it. Thank you for the spirit that lets us share all that we are. In your name we ask it. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Phil. And to lead us in the pledge and the four-way test, out from behind the camera, James Field.
Let you know, we have a new setup, which also is now recording directly off of the mic. So, Bad Boys Table, don't worry about what you say; it's not being picked up. You go back to your comments. And Ann Sexton is our high school student who's videoing for us, and so, and she's very expert at this, so it should come out really great. So, anyway, now with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now for the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, James. And lead us in song, Chris Barker.
Good morning, everyone. So, as you see, we're pleased to announce the arrival of our newest Rotarian. Elizabeth Qualick had her little baby boy, Grayson James Qualick, on September 18th, born 6 weeks early, but did come in weighing 4 pounds, 15 ounces. Good. There we go. So, Mr. Theodore, what Friday? This is a true happy birthday to you. So, let's sing happy birthday to newborn Grayson James. Ready?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Grayson. Happy birthday to you.
And Chris, you want to, there are no guests. So, our president, Tom Tobin.
Good morning, Rotarians. Good morning. All right. Let's see here. Some of you guys stole some of my material here this morning, so which is perfectly appropriate. By the way, I think Liz passed along some sort of a comment about Grayson, deciding he wanted to, he seems to be a very, get out. He's working things on his own timetable, so we're really happy for for the Kowalik family. That's wonderful. Second of all, I did want to, once again, thank Ann Sexton for helping us out with the audiovisual. We have different service learning class students that help us out each month. It really is a big help for our club. Thank you so much. Please tell your others, those who will follow you, the same thing. It really helps it make it easier for, I think, for James to get through the meeting. It's a lot of stuff, a lot of pressure on him otherwise. By the way, as James did point out, looks like we have a new configuration for the audiovisual equipment. I got to applaud the ingenuity of Gary Dixon, who is the man who helps us with our audiovisual equipment. It looks like he's got instead of the tripod, he has the camera mounted on a piece of plumbing equipment over there now, but it's a better solution. We got the speakers back there. The only thing I will ask you, everybody, to please be careful. If you're walking around over there, please don't, be aware that there are speakers there. Don't knock into them and knock them over. You'll probably hurt somebody pretty badly. So, yeah. All right. Well, good. All right. I did want to mention just a few other things. I am looking for someone to work with Ron Barnhouse, who has been our representative for the, I'm not going to say this right, I think it's Hudson Community Service Association, but on the, specifically on the Hudson Food Pantry. So this would involve occasionally going to meetings and then also working from time to time, volunteering at the pantry, both on receiving food in and distributing it out to the clients that they have. So I'm just mentioning that right now. I'm not looking for hands up, but if anybody is interested, it's at least a few hours a month. See me or see Ron. If we don't get any volunteers, I'm going to come find you. So, all right, let's see. I did mention that there was going to be, I thought we would have a cluster meeting today. That got postponed a week, so we will have a good number of guests next week attending our regular meeting, and then we will, at the end of the meeting, we will go on down to the Greenwood Dining Room, I think it's called, for the cluster meeting. Ed Sogan, I think you had a few announcements you'd like to make.
Just a quick sports report from the high school. All the teams are doing great. Boys and girls soccer, boys and girls golf. We've got the tennis team. Everyone is performing at a high level. Cross country, again, is having a great season. So go on the school's website if you would like to attend some of these contests. And they have the full schedule on there. And, of course, if there's any problem with the weather, they would also have the cancellations and the rescheduling. Just to make sure that for this week's game, it is homecoming versus Brecksville. So there'll be a lot of activities. If you are planning to attend that game, come early because, again, the crowd will be showing up a little bit ahead of schedule there. Next week is the alumni tailgate, so any graduates from Hudson High School are welcomed by Cheryl Sheetsley and her staff for a tailgate, and I believe that starts at about 5:30 in the Malson Athletic Center. So if you are a graduate, please attend that. That game is going to be versus Nordonia. Next week is also the Hall of Fame weekend. We are inducting 7 members into the Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame. I'll go quickly through their names. Bradley Lepper, class of 1974, is the manager for archaeology and natural history and a senior curator for the Ohio History Connection. Bertie Carroll Searson is a 2000 graduate and a Broadway performer. She was in Wicked on Broadway and is in musical theater education. Ken Carilla, 1978 graduate, founder of KGA Garden and Design down on Georgetown Road, which is also building a party center out there. Ken is getting in this year for his work in that particular area. Commander Russell Gates, U.S. Navy, deceased. Russ graduated in 1981, was an outstanding athlete, and a highly decorated naval aviator. Richard Grell, who many of you may know, is a '67 graduate. He's nationally recognized woodworker. His specialty is Windsor chairs, and he does a great job with that. Darren Zoronic, 1992 graduate, is a professor of neurology at the University of Michigan. Melissa Macris graduated in 1979, and she's an interior designer and founder of Design for Living, and is an outstanding person in that particular field. That is happening on October 5th. And if you go on the Hudson City Schools Foundation website, you can see about reservations or contact me if you would like to support these individuals as they get into the Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame. Rich.
Just FYI, Mitch Kadani was on national TV Saturday or Friday night.
Let's give him a microphone. Yeah.
Mitch Gadani, quarterback at Toledo. Hudson.
Starting quarterback at Toledo, and coach knows him well. He was all Ohio, all whatever, 4 or 5 years ago, and he brought the Toledo Rockets from behind to beat the Colorado State, whatever they
Buffaloes.
are. Buffaloes.
Yeah.
On national television. So it's kind of fun to watch one of our own, as coach can appreciate,
Yeah.
and others, how well he performed.
Yep, outstanding athlete, outstanding academic student also at Hudson High School. Thank you.
Also, there will be fireworks. this
Fireworks, that's right. Yeah, we got big time stuff coming up this homecoming. All right.
Yeah, my understanding is that an anonymous donor
Yeah.
is making the.
Well, thank you.
No. Ed.
I forgot one more thing. Santa on the Green. Mark it on your calendar. September 7th. September. We're early this year.
It was a conflict.
It's a burr. It's December 7th. Okay, and we'll be doing that sign up stuff. But mark it on your calendar. December 7th.
A day that will live in infamy. Yeah. All right. All right. Good. Ed, that's great. All right. Hey, by the way, I'm involved to some extent with the Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame. Once again, this is every 2 years we induct a class into the Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame. On the other years, it's the athletics. But we could really use you guys helping us bird dog good prospects for the Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame. You guys have your fingers in the community. You know what the alums have done, perhaps even better than some of the rest of us who are keeping an eye out. So if there's a story out there we should know about what an alum has done that might qualify them for induction status, we would really like to know it. Tell me or Ed. That would be great. It's also on the website. Or they just go up to the website and make a nomination, right? So that's the Hudson City Schools Foundation website. All right. I think that deals with all the things that we have to talk about right now. I want to apologize about the parking situation this morning. I was not aware that was going to be an issue. Hope, people weren't parking in the lake or anything like that. But we'll work with Laurel Lake on this. All right. So let me ask Joe Zapatowski to come on up and introduce our distinguished speaker today.
Good morning, Rotarians. We are fortunate this morning to have with us Jim Letchko, who just retired from his 45 years in financial services industry. He had a 22-year career with First Federal Lakewood, where he was a certified financial planner. Jim joined the Rotary Club of Lakewood, Rocky River in October 2001. He's held a variety of club positions, including program chair, treasurer, club president in the 2006 and 7 Rotary year, and board member. Jim Letchko has served the district level as the grant committee chair, assistant district governor, and foundation chair. Currently serves as the grant committee and is the Paul Harris Society chair. Jim started a new 3-year term as the District Foundation Chair in July of 2019. He's married to Sue since 1975. He has a daughter, Angela, who is a registered nurse, and a pet, Duke, a golden retriever who is a rescue and certified therapy dog. It's always good to have those around. Jim?
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me here today. Let's take a minute and pretend we're somebody else. Let's pretend that you're a young child who lives in an area with violent conflict all the time. The government abuses their citizens. They have soldiers that are raping the women. Or maybe you live in an area where there's little or no health care. Or if there is health care, you can't afford the health care. Or maybe you're waking up this morning and you don't have the same sanitation and hygiene support systems that we have here. And when it's time to take care of your bodily functions, you're out in the field somewhere doing that. Or maybe you're a young mother whose baby just died because there is no health care available to take care of them. Maybe you're a young girl who can't go to school because you're required to, walk 5 or 10 miles each way to collect pots of water, clean water, to bring back to your family. Or maybe you just live in an area where there is no opportunity for economic advancement. These are the areas of focus that the Rotary Foundation focuses on from a global perspective. So back in 1915, Arch Klump, who you may have heard of him, may not have. So he was a member of the Cleveland Rotary Club, and he went on to become the president of Rotary International. You can't get much higher than that in the Rotary world. And on his way out, when he finished up his year as president of Rotary International, as the international convention convened and was finished, he decided he wanted to do something more lasting, something more impactful. So with $26.50 that was left over from the international convention, he started the Rotary Foundation. And the Rotary Foundation's motto is doing good in the world. So that's basically the concept that spun off or started the Rotary Foundation. But let's talk about the 6 areas of focus. Peace building and conflict prevention. So conflict and violence displaced more than 68 million people just in the past year. And over half of those are women and children, or over half of those are children. So Rotary refuses to accept conflict as a way of life. Rotary projects provide training that fosters understanding and provides communities with the skills to resolve conflicts. Rotary Peace Fellows develop the skills to strengthen peace efforts, train local leaders to prevent and mediate conflict, and support long-term peace building in areas affected by conflict. Rotary provides up to 100 Peace Fellows per year at the various Rotary Peace Centers. Disease prevention and treatment. So our health is everything, yet 400 million people in the world either can't afford or don't have access to basic health care. So we believe that good health care is everyone's right. Disease results in misery and pain, poverty for millions of people worldwide. That's why treating and preventing disease is so important to Rotary. We lead efforts both large and small. We set up temporary clinics, blood donation centers, and training facilities in underserved communities struggling with outbreaks and health care access. We design and build infrastructure that allows doctors, patients, and governments to work together. Our members combat diseases like malaria, HIV/AIDS, Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, diabetes, and, of course, polio. Prevention is important, which is why we also focus on health education and bringing people routine hearing, vision, and dental care. Water, sanitation, and hygiene. So clean water, sanitation, and hygiene education are basic necessities for a healthy environment and a productive life. When people have access to clean water and sanitation, waterborne diseases decrease, children stay healthier and attend school more regularly, and mothers can spend less time carrying water and more time helping their families. More than 2.5 billion people lack access to adequate sanitation facilities, an astounding number. And at least 3,000 children die each day, all right? 3,000 children each day die from diarrheal diseases caused by unsafe water. Maternal and child health. So Rotary makes high-quality health care available to vulnerable mothers and children so they can live longer and grow stronger. We expand access to quality care so mothers and children everywhere can have the same opportunities for a healthy future. An estimated 5.9 million children under the age of 5 die each year, 5.9 million, because of malnutrition, inadequate health care, and poor sanitation. All of these things can be prevented. Basic education and literacy. More than 775 million people over the age of 15 are illiterate. That's 17% of the world's population. So our goal is to strengthen the capacity of communities to support basic education and literacy, reduce gender disparity in education, and increase adult literacy. We support education for all children and literacy for children and adults. And then lastly, community and economic development. There's nearly 800 million people that live on less than $1.90 per day. Rotary members are passionate about providing sustainable solutions to poverty. Our members and our foundation work to strengthen local entrepreneurs and community leaders, particularly women in impoverished communities. We provide training and access to well-paying jobs and financial management. So why consider the Rotary Foundation? Why consider making contributions to the Rotary Foundation? Personally, I believe that we are truly blessed to have been born here in the United States. But by the grace of God, we were born here and not in some third world country. Whether you're white, black, Hispanic, Asian, rich or poor, it doesn't matter. I feel like we live like kings and queens compared to most other people around the world. And in having that privilege, we have opportunities to help others in the world. We have all kinds of opportunities to help. We have all kinds of wonderful charities that, probably most of you contribute to in some manner. Great charities, a lot of them related to health, the Cancer Society and autism and all those different things. We have, charities to support, veterans of the war, all kinds of great opportunities. But I believe that the opportunity for us to support the Rotary Foundation is a great opportunity, and I think it's great because I think the Rotary Foundation is unique in a couple of ways. First of all, we can be very proud of our foundation. I just read in an email this morning when I opened it up that for the 12th consecutive year, we've received the top rating from Charity Navigator, which monitors, foundations all around the world. So, they look at how the foundation is being administered, what kind of expenses they have, how much of the money goes towards the actual programs versus administrative expenses, salaries, commissions, things like that. Over 90% of our money goes towards programs, which is something we can really be proud of. You know, when you get the calls that come in from the various charities asking for donations, you know, if before you made a commitment, if you ask them, well, can you tell me how much of my donation is going to go towards the actual programs? I mean, I think you'd be shocked. I mean, some of them are less than 10%, and all that other money is going towards administrative types of expenses. So, you know, we can be really proud of our foundation and how it's managed and administered. Again, it receives a top charity rating consistently. A couple of years ago, it was awarded the World's Outstanding Foundation by the organization that, you know, that presents that award. So a lot to be proud of there. But I think the most unique thing about the Rotary Foundation is that we actually decide how to use the money. Any other charity you donate to, you give them the money, and you know, you kind of leave it up to them and trust them to do, you know, the best they can do with the money. When you make contributions to the Rotary Foundation, you have basically three options, or four options. You can donate to Polio Plus, which is, you know, the current global effort that Rotary is working on, which is a great cause. We're down to 2 endemic countries right now, Afghanistan and Pakistan. Nigeria has gone 3 years now without a case, but it's waiting for its official certification before it can be declared polio-free. And right now we're still involved with the 2-for-1 match from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So every dollar that we contribute, they contribute too. So it's really important that we continue to support that program. You can contribute to the endowment, which basically is, you know, they'll take that money, they'll invest it, and they won't spend it. They'll use the earnings from the endowment to support programs and some administrative expenses. You can contribute to specific programs or projects that Rotary is working on. But the fourth option is the annual fund, which is probably the one that most of us are familiar with. And your contributions to the annual fund are important because that's the money that comes back to the district that we are able to use to support the projects that our local clubs are doing. So the way this works is that the money that we contribute to the annual fund this year, the Rotary Foundation will keep that money. They'll invest the earnings or use the earnings for programs. But 3 years later, we get 50% of that money back. Now, right now in our district, we're contributing right around $200,000, a little over $200,000 a year as a district to the annual fund. So that means every year we're getting a little over $100,000 back that we're able to use for matching grants to clubs in our district for projects that they're doing, either local projects or global projects. Now, we're fortunate that our district does it that way. Some districts, they'll have the district governor and the foundation chair. They'll get together and decide what the district wants to do with that money, and that's how that decision is made. We feel that since you as individual Rotarians and as clubs are the ones that are contributing the money, you should have a say in how that money is used and the opportunity to use it for your own project. So I think we're lucky to be in a situation like that. So we get 50% of that money back, and that's our district designated funds. So let's say we get that $100,000 back. We can allocate up to 50% of that for local projects. And so we can say we'll set aside $50,000 of that will be used as matching grant money for maybe a project that maybe your club wants to do. We've had a lot of activity recently. You know, it seems like more and more clubs are becoming interested in that. And we're at the point where we don't have enough money to support all the projects that the clubs want to do. So it's important that we increase those annual fund contributions. The other 50% of our $100,000, so the other 50 will be allocated towards global grants. So we have a number of clubs in our district that are involved in global grants. So they'll partner up with a club in another country. They'll go through a pretty rigorous process of getting a needs assessment done in the other country, working with the leaders in that city or village, wherever they're doing the projects, getting estimates, for all the work, submitting the application to the Rotary Foundation, getting approval both from our grants committee as well as the Rotary Foundation at the international level. And they can do some pretty significant projects, and I'll go through the numbers here in a minute. So this happens, every year we're getting 50% of the money that we contributed 3 years ago, which allows our clubs to do more significant projects because they can, double the money. It's a dollar for dollar match on these local grants, and again, get into even more significant projects on a global nature. So the other 50% that didn't come back to us, that goes into the World Fund. And the World Fund is used by the Rotary Foundation at the international level to provide matching dollars for these global grants, the global projects that are being done. So again, very unique from the standpoint that you contribute to the foundation, you have a say, you have the opportunity to use some of this money for your own project, whether it's here locally or if it's being done abroad on a global project. So this is an example of how this works. So basically, however much money your club raises for a global project, you can multiply that by 3.5 times, and that's how you maximize or leverage your money. So the minimum global grant size is $35,000. To get there, your club would need to raise $10,000, and that could be your club or a cluster group of clubs. You can combine other clubs or just solicit donations from other clubs, but you need to raise at least $10,000 in cash. The district, from that money that came back, the 50% that was allocated for global grants, will match your $10,000 dollar for dollar. So now we're up to $20,000. The World Fund, so the other 50% that didn't come back to us, out of that money, the Rotary Foundation will match the district's contribution dollar for dollar. So there's another $10,000, and now we're up to $30,000. And the Rotary Foundation will match your club's cash contribution 50 cents on the dollar, another $5,000. So you can get $10,000 will turn into a $35,000 project. If you can raise $20,000, you have a $70,000 project, and so on. So using your contributions to the foundation, it really leverages what you're able to do, on a global scale. So in the 2018-19 year, there were 503 district grants. So that means districts like ours applied for that district-designated funds to come back. There's 550-some districts, I think, in the world. So the majority of the districts take advantage of getting this money back to be able to use for either local or global grants. There were a little over 1,300 global grants made around the world. 63 polio grants, so there were specific projects related to the polio efforts around the world, and 94 Peace Fellows. So the Peace Fellows, our district is actually involved with this. So we will interview people from around the world that want to apply for a Peace Fellow scholarship. And the Peace Fellow scholarship is a two-year master's program in peace and conflict prevention. And I'm trying to remember now, 6 or 7 different locations around the world where they can attend a university. In the United States here, there's University of North Carolina, I believe, is where that takes place. But there's Australia, Japan, Thailand, Britain, maybe 1 or 2 other places. But they can apply, and each one of these locations has kind of a different focus on peace and conflict prevention. So depending on what area the applicant wants to focus on, they can request approval to attend a certain location. They may get approved for that one, they may not. So, but they attend this 2 years master's program in peace and conflict prevention. So I've had the opportunity to sit in on these interviews with some of these folks, and again, they're from all over the world. So I don't know if any of you know Rick Pollock. His office is right here in Hudson, and he kind of heads up this effort. And we usually go to his office, and we will Skype with these people who are halfway around the world. They might be Skyping from a coffee shop somewhere, or it's just pretty cool to go through this process. But these are people that have already kind of established their careers. They're early in their career, but they're already working with their local governments or national governments, trying to improve their situation. In some of those examples I gave when I first started, the living in areas of conflict and in these different types of situations, where we can't even imagine, because we are so blessed to be living in the United States here. But these people, they will go on. Some of them have gone on to work at the United Nations. They've become leaders in as far as in their political things back home. So it's an amazing program, and we're happy to participate. It doesn't cost us anything as a district. We just are involved in reviewing the application, interviewing the candidates to determine if they're a good fit, for the program. So it's a pretty cool thing. This is an example of a current grant application that's in process. So a little over a year ago, our Interact clubs got the idea to do this global grant after one of the hurricanes down in the Bahamas, and I think this is in St. Thomas. There was a school down there, their library was destroyed, so the Interact Club decided that they wanted to help restore this library. So they basically, the Chesterland Club is the sponsor club working with the club in St. Thomas, because the Interact clubs, they're not allowed to, they're high school students, they're not allowed to sign legal agreements and things like that, so they need to get the sponsorship from a club. But they basically, solicited donations and contributions from around the district. Your club has probably participated in this, and maybe some individuals have made, personal commitments to doing this. But you can see here, so they've raised over $30,000. The district is going to match that dollar for dollar. The Rotary Foundation will match the district's contribution dollar for dollar. And the World Fund at the foundation level will match that 50 cents on the dollar. So, $30,000 turns into a project over $100,000. So, and it's really cool that there were kids involved that got this thing rolling, and are going to do something really significant. The grant's not finished yet. They're still working on it. They had to do some rewriting of the grant to be able to get it approved at the foundation level. But again, this is just an example of a real-life grant that's going on. So on the local grants, so local grants are a dollar-for-dollar match, a minimum $500 match, up to $3,500. So the projects need to be at least $1,000 up to $7,000 or more. It could be way more than $7,000, but you're still only going to get the $3,500. So last year we had 17 clubs participate, a little over $51,000 in matching grant money. So the projects around our district were over $100,000. Based on what we did here, not necessarily. There's a lot of clubs that do projects without going through the grant process. So, just with the grant process, we've contributed over $100,000 back into our communities, along with everything else that Rotary does. So, we're at a situation this year. So, in the 1920 Rotary year, we had a request for over $80,000 in matching grants, and I think we had $117,000 come back, so 50% of that was not enough to cover the $80,000. Fortunately, Rotary allowed all the clubs to do a little more than 50% this year. So I think we were able to do a little over between 60 and 65,000 in total matching grants. So basically, we didn't tell anybody that they weren't approved because we didn't have money. We basically prorated everything down to 80% of their requests so that we could fund everybody something, not quite as much as they asked for, but we were able to provide funding for all of those grant requests. So let's talk about recognition a little bit. So, the Rotary Foundation provides different recognition levels for people who have contributed to the foundation. So, our biggest effort is every Rotarian every year. We want every Rotarian to contribute something, even if it's $10. I believe as a Rotarian that, if you truly are a Rotarian, you have to believe in what our foundation is doing. I mean, they're just doing amazing things all around the world. So I can't believe it wouldn't at least be worth a $10 contribution to the foundation. The Hudson Club is a little over 50% participation. You're pretty consistently contributing a little over $4,000 a year to the annual fund. Of the 59, 60 or so members, I think every Rotarian every year for the last couple of years has been around 35, 36 people. So we'd love to see more participation. If you have concerns about donating to the foundation that is preventing you from doing so, I'd be happy to talk to you. Maybe I could help you overcome some of that. But every Rotarian every year is our biggest effort, because and you're not unusual. I mean, that's pretty consistent around the world. There's there's a larger portion, I think, of Rotarians who aren't contributing to the foundation than there are. So if we could just get all those people who aren't contributing anything just to do $10, I mean, that would be a huge benefit to the foundation. After that, we have sustaining members, and those are people who are contributing $100 every year to the foundation. Once you've reached $1,000 in contributions, you become a Paul Harris Fellow. So you get your nice little Paul Harris Fellow pin. And then for every $1,000 after that, then you become a Paul Harris Fellow +1, +2, plus et cetera, till you're a Paul Harris +8, where you're at $9,000. And then once you reach a total of $10,000 in cash contributions, then you'd become a major donor. Then you get the little pin with the diamond on it. The other thing to consider is the Paul Harris Society. So the Paul Harris Society is different than being just a Paul Harris Fellow in that the members of the Paul Harris Society are Rotarians who have committed to giving $1,000 annually to either the annual fund, Polio Plus, or some combination thereof. We currently have 57 members in the Paul Harris Society in our district. And just to kind of realize how important that is, again, our annual contributions are around $200,000. Those 57 members, or about 2.5% of the Rotary members in our district, make up over 25% of those contributions. So, if we can get more people, willing to make that kind of a commitment, it could significantly increase our contributions, which means we get more money coming back here to the district to use for matching grant money. Once you get over major donor, then we have the Arch Clump Society, which we have a number of Arch Clump Society members in the district, but that's a $250,000 either cash contribution or official written commitment through a bequest or something like that to the Rotary Foundation. Those people have really bought in, and are in a place where they're financially capable of doing that, which is awesome. Not everybody's in that position. If all you can afford is $10 a year and you're doing that, that's just as important as the guy that's doing the $250,000. So. They're all good. From a legacy type of situation, we have benefactors who are people who have committed $1,000 to the Rotary Foundation in their legacy papers through a will, insurance policy, beneficiary, something like that, or a bequest society member, and that's anybody who has committed $10,000 or more to the foundation as a bequest in their will. And then there's different levels, 10,000, 25, 50, 100,000, and so on, different levels of the bequest society. So, that's, I think, a pretty good summary of the different levels of recognition. And again, here's the Paul Harris Society that I mentioned before. You get that nice little Paul Harris Society, little banner to hang off of your pin there. Giving through Rotary Direct, this is how I do it. The year I was president in 2006 and 7, I went to the All Ohio Pets, which is the president-elect training seminar down in Columbus. They had some really good presentations about the foundation. I drank the Rotary Kool-Aid there. So, I signed up for systematic investments to the foundation through Rotary Direct. They can charge your credit card or take it out of your bank account. I charge mine to my credit card. It just gets lost in there. You don't even know it's there. But I started with $25 a quarter. I wanted to do the sustaining member. So I was doing $100 a year. And as I was able to, I increased that over time. So now I do the $1,000 a year. I split it. I do $50 a month towards the annual fund, $35 a month towards Polio Plus. So I'm contributing to both, getting credit for my Paul Harris Society points on both of those. So But if you haven't considered Rotary Direct, please do so. I think we have 80-some people in the district that do that right now. I'm surprised we don't have more because it makes it so easy to do that. So again, we ask you to, consider making Rotary Foundation, if not the charity of choice, one of your charities of choice in some manner. Again, just to help us achieve that goal of every Rotarian every year. So that's all I have for comments, but I would be happy to entertain any questions that you may have about the foundation. Yes, sir. Microphone, please.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I have a question to ask of Joe. Joe Zabatowski, in our Paul Harris Society club environment here, if I understand it, if we make a contribution of $500, the club matches it. Is that correct? Yes, it is. They're still doing that? Yes. So think about it. You're not talking about a $1,000 contribution. You're talking about a $500 contribution. The club will match that, and all of a sudden you're in.
That's awesome.
That's a great way to leverage it.
Yeah, there's a few clubs that provide that for their members, and that's a great way to get them started.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
Thank you, Joe.
Borrow the microphone for a second because I also wanted to make the point, and you can talk to Joe, because if you're involved, any contribution that you've made through every Rotarian every year, or otherwise that goes to the Rotary Foundation, not to our local Hudson Rotary Foundation, but any contribution that has made its way to the Rotary International Foundation. Rotary International Foundation keeps track of that, and Joe has a report that will show you how close you are to that $500 level, which would then qualify you for Paul Harris membership. A lot of you may be much closer than you think, because if you've been a member for several years and you've been doing every Rotarian every year, you're already at least a few $100s toward that $500 mark. So I would encourage you all to talk to Joe, find out where you are relative to that, or maybe Joe, you could say something to folks individually, let them know which ones are close, and let's see what we can do to really boost up our Paul Harris membership of this club.
Regarding that Paul Harris, if you are a member of Paul Harris, you have that little pin. I don't even wear mine. I think I should be wearing it. I was talking to Joe about that earlier. In wearing it, do you usually wear it by itself in lieu of Rotary pin?
You can, either way. You can
Either
use
way?
it with your Rotary pin or in addition to.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Well, Phil, isn't the question really about the pin? If you wear it and you don't wear your local pin, will Coach fine you?
Either way.
Unfairly, yes.
I have a question from our Hudson Rotary Foundation. We occasionally get some requests that come to us maybe from a local connection, but it's an international request. For example, we have a current one that we just talked about in our club from the Orkiswa School in Tanzania.
Okay.
And they were looking for some monies. We tend to give to local type things. If we get a request like that from an international organization, can we contact you and pass it up to the district, or how should we handle that?
Well, actually, if you're going to participate in a global grant, even though you're not the sponsoring club, you do need to let the district grant committee know.
Okay.
Because we want to, because we'll have access to the grant application on the Rotary website, and we need to, to monitor that as it goes along, because what happens is there's reporting requirements with these grants as they're in progress, and if the clubs, the sponsoring clubs, are delinquent on their reporting, whoops, I just leaned on my thing here. It impacts our ability to get grants approved. It might disqualify us from future grants until all of that reporting is up to date. So it would be wise to let us know about it at the district grant committee, and we can kind of walk you through that if you have any questions or anything. And
I'll check with you afterwards.
Great.
Then. Thank you.
Good.
Jim, could you just talk about the sustainability of international projects? I know-
Sure. So a few years back, in my first term as the grant committee chair, we went through this new grant process, new grant module process. And one of the big concerns with Rotary Foundation was that Rotarians were doing these wonderful projects all around the world, but they didn't have a sustainability feature built into them. So we would go into villages and build water wells and then leave, and then like the water well would break, and there was never any education done as to how to fix these and maintain them, or maybe there wasn't a financial system put into place to make sure there was money to pay for repairs and maintenance and that type of thing. So we just had a lot of things that, good intentions, but once the Rotarians left and weren't involved anymore, then they kind of fell apart. So one of the requirements in this new grant process is, I mentioned before, is that, the needs assessment. So before Rotarians go in and do a project that they think a community needs, they have to talk to the community leaders and make sure they want the project and they're willing to support it. And if they are, then they have to build a sustainability feature into the project, so that if the Rotarians, whether they're going to continue to be involved or not, there needs to be a method of education to make sure people are trained in whatever that project is to keep it going. And if it requires any type of financial commitment or ongoing financial commitment for maintenance and things like that, that's built into place too. Like with water wells, they might charge people a penny every time they come and fill up a 5-gallon pot or something like that. Something to make sure that that project is going to continue and not just kind of fall flat on its face once it's done. There's just. And if I could just say, I'm not sure when the last time or if your club has ever been involved with a local grant, but definitely consider that. I mean, you can take, $500 to $3,500 and double that, which, with the dollar for dollar match from the district grant committee, and do some wonderful things. I know that the Solon Club here just last year, they did a project with their fire department where they purchased some type of a special sauna for them where, after they've been to a fire, their bodies kind of absorb these toxins and things that are not good for the body. And they go and they'll sit in this special sauna that detoxifies them, which is really cool. And I think they share that with some of the surrounding fire departments too. So, that's just one example of some really cool things that you could do. So, thank you so much for having me here today.
Jim, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. Jim, thank you so much. A lot of great information about the Rotary Foundation, a lot of good ideas about how we can participate and why we should participate and consider the Rotary Foundation to be, if not one of our personal favorite foundations or charitable organizations. All right, I just want to remind, by the way, Jake, come on up. Let me mention in the meantime, next week's we start the October series of candidates who are going to be telling us about their political, there's a political candidate. So next week it's the Ward 1 candidates. I think we have possibly 4 of them that will be speaking next week. We'll be able to ask questions. So Jake Johnson, president of the Clock Tower Club, had an announcement he'd like to make.
Thank you all. Just wanted to say something real quickly. Back on the 17th of September, Mayor Basil made a proclamation declaring 10/6 through 10/10 the State of Mind Hudson Week. And for those of you that don't know what State of Mind Hudson is, it is it's the Leadership Hudson Class of 2019 project, which the Rotary Club of Hudson Clock Tower is, that's been our primary community service project since back in 2002, is the development of those projects and helping support that initiative. So this year's project, they are looking for people to come out and attend. It is focused on raising awareness in the community of the stigmas around mental health and trying to remove those stigmas and help people with any mental health issues. So there's all kinds of speaker events throughout that week that are going on. They have a Facebook site that you can see their calendar of events for the week. They're looking for both volunteers, so if you have time to volunteer just to help with crowd control, things like that, being at the different events, you can reach out to the individuals on that Facebook page, or just showing up and listening, being in the audience. They would definitely appreciate some attendance, if you can talk about it while you're out in the community. It would be great to drive that attendance. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to address me at the end. But thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Great. Thanks. Thanks, Jake. All right, Rotabuck this week. This week's jackpot is $16, and I don't have the total for the mark. $3.99, Chris tells me. So, could I have Jim? Would you pick up? At random, and the number is 1961. 1961. A good year. All right.
Longevity wins.
Let me find my marbles here. All right. Good, good. Let me give you this. Okay, here's the money for this week.
Thank you.
All right. Please affirm that there is a black marble in there.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Right in the middle.
Not anymore.
Right in the middle.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nice try, Jay. Please try again next week. All right. In honor of Jim being here, I just wanted to pass along one quote from our own Arch Clump, once again, member of District 6630, the very early president of the Rotary Club and the founder of the Rotary Foundation. We should not live for ourselves alone, but for the joy in doing good for others. So he said that back in 1917. Fabulous. All right, as we leave this meeting today, let's all go out there and show the world that we are proud to be Rotarians. If there's nothing else to announce, I declare this meeting adjourned.